welcome back to another video. Thank you for joining me today. Today I want to start a little series called This or That in the Home Economy. Or maybe I'll tweak that title a little bit. But anyways, what I'm getting at here is I want to help you walk through your home room by room and figure out where you can be a producer and not a consumer, and help you kind of clarify and distill what should I be buying maybe versus what should I be producing, and really break down how much money that can save you, which I don't know if you live in today's economy. I do. But saving money is a huge deal. And I want to break that down just a little bit more. I read this really interesting article, and it was actually written last year. And if I can remember, or if YouTube will let me, I'll try to link it down below. But it was that the gist of the article was on that old saying, a dollar saved is a dollar earned, or a penny saved is a penny earned. And that saying is usually attributed to like George Washington or Benjamin Franklin or somebody like that. And that's like not true. I guess whoever said that Benjamin Franklin said that, he didn't. But anyways, it's just this concept that saving money earns you money. And if you are on a single income like I am, my husband is the breadwinner. I do make a little money on the side with things that flow out of my home economy, but for the most part, he is the only earner. And I hear this so much. I see it all over TikTok. I see it all over Instagram. I see it all over YouTube. That sure, I would love to be a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home wife, but it's just not feasible. Like in today's world, there has to be two incomes, or how are you even surviving? And here's the truth. You can absolutely survive on one modest blue-collar income, even in a larger family. Now, we're not a larger family, but it can be done. And there are women all over social media showing how it's done. And the bottom line is that just most people will not do what you need to do to live on a modest blue collar income. Most people are not willing to make the sacrifices of only having one used vehicle, one high mileage used vehicle. Most people are not willing to make the sacrifice of downsizing your square footage. Most people are not willing to make the sacrifice of not taking a family vacation every single year somewhere expensive. Most people are not willing to make the sacrifice of making everything from scratch because ingredients cost less than pre-made meals. So those are all sacrifices that absolutely must be made if you want to live on a single blue collar income. And I think that a lot of times we just get, I'm sorry for the weird in and out of the camera. I have a tripod. It doesn't matter. You know, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to stand here and you're going to have this conversation with me. So anyways, most people are not willing to actually take a genuine look at their finances and then start taking scissors to it. And that's really the crux of the problem. So we tend to think that like if we can snip a little penny here and snip a little penny here, that's going to make up a big difference. But unless you're actually looking at the big picture items like car payments, food, and housing, that's where the vast majority of everybody's money is going. So if you have more than one car payment, you need to rethink that. Like these are just truths that you need to rethink. And people think that you can't live with one vehicle in today's society, especially Western culture, because especially North American culture, because everything's so far away. But we've been a one car family from the beginning. We've only ever been able to afford one car, so that's all we've ever had. So is it difficult? Yeah, sure. Does it require a lot of advanced planning? Absolutely. Is it worth it? Yes. Yes, it is. So like those are just that's one category. It's the car. And the car, I think I was reading that the average car payment today is nearly like $600, which is insane to me. I can't even fathom having $600 to pay for a car, let alone wanting $600 to pay for a car every single month. Wild. That's wild to me. And then also the next category would be housing. So taking like a very valid look at your housing and being very honest and saying, do we need to live in the 6 bedroom, 4 bathroom? I don't know your situation, so I don't even know if this applies to you. But do we need to live in this large house that has this big mortgage or this large rent payment? Is there a way that we can geo arbitrage, which was like something that we learned about? Maybe your significant other can do remote work and you don't need to live in the expensive state or the expensive city, and you can move elsewhere and you can do remote work in a state that has a much lower cost of living. Um, like those are things that definitely need to be considered. And then furthermore, is there a way to like house hack? Is that a feasibility for you? Maybe you can't get out of the giant mortgage because of the market that we're in, but maybe you have an extra bedroom or two that you can rent out to friends or family. Maybe you have a lot of land and you could lease it for farming or for, I don't know, horse boarding or whatever. But there are ways that you could increase income without going out and getting a job outside of the house. And those are things that, like, of course, you would have to have that conversation with your husband and whatnot. But start thinking outside the box. So often, especially because of the feminist fishbowl that we all swim in, the disgusting, murky water that we all have to breathe. Um, so often we tend to think that for a woman to make money or to help with the household income, she has to go out and get a 9 to 5, which means her kids got to be raised by the public school system or daycare. That's not, it's just not true. Now, again, I'm not advocating that women don't work. That's not what I'm saying, because housework is work. What I'm going to go through with you today, it's work. Don't get me wrong. But it could mean the difference. It really could mean the difference between living comfortably with your children in your home where you are at home with them and somebody else is not raising them, or it could mean you being home while your husband's working. Like, it depends on the dynamic that you have with your husband. I know that there are some husbands that want their wives to come home after they get married and they don't have children yet, and I think that's very commendable for a wife to learn how to keep a home. I think that's amazing. There is a creator here on YouTube that's doing great content with that, if that applies to you. I think it's At Home with Kelly. I love watching her stuff. She speaks absolutely biblical truth, and I'm just a big fan. But she talks a lot about being a childless, currently not having children, but married, stay-at-home wife, and how, like, a lot of culture pushes back on you for that. But here's the thing. There is a cost to working outside your home, even if you don't currently have children. So there's a cost to it, and most women just assume that the cost is worth it, but it might not be. And you'll have to do the math, and you'll have to do the conversation with your husband to find out what that looks like. So anyhow, but what I want to do is I want to focus on the woman who wants to stay home or who currently is staying home with her children and who is looking to save where she can. And I think that this is like everybody. Even if you want to stay home but you can't currently, this could be a great place to start, to show to your husband that you're dedicated to this. Like, you really do want this lifestyle. You really do want to be at home with your children. You really do want to be a great steward of your resources and your time and your abilities and things like that. And I think that there's a lot of like different layers to this, but I want to be very practical here instead of more theological. So practically speaking, I want to start in the laundry room today. So I have brought you guys into my laundry room. So if there's a lot of like reverb or echo, I'm going to apologize for any crazy audio. I'm not in my usual little studio, so it is what it is. And I have not cleaned up in here. I have not done anything. I just walked in here with my notepad full of my notes to talk about. And I'm just going to take you section by section and talk about ways to save and how much money you can actually save just on this one room in your home, if you're being smart and if you're being a good steward and if you're being frugal and if you're thinking about becoming a producer and not a consumer. And I think that mindset change will set you on a trajectory that will become unstoppable. When you start thinking about how can I produce things in my home, And I'm not even talking about producing for sale. I'm talking about producing so that you're not consuming. And anyways, to loop back to where I was, that a dollar saved is a dollar earned. I was reading this article, and this was written last year, and it said that actually a dollar saved is $2.43 earned. So for every dollar you spend, you lose $2.43 or $1.43, because as you go and you get your income, you are taxed on it. So if you're in my tax bracket, then it's like 40%. That's very close to 40% as a 1099, like freelancer, self-employed person. So immediately off the top, if I make any money, I have to set aside 40% of it. And this is going to actually increase depending on what state you're in the United States, because different states have different state taxes. So that's just my federal tax. Like off the top, 30% to the government, another 10% as a buffer in case anything changes, because things are always changing. So if I go out and I am making minimum wage, which right now in my state is $15, and by the time I get home, 30% of that $15 is gone. It's already been taxed. So in order for me to make, $130 or $100, I actually have to work $130 worth of time. So that's a lot of time that you're spending just to pay taxes. And then let's say you go a step further than that. You have just paid your taxes, right? So on your paycheck, so you've got your $100 of the $130 that you earned, and you go to the store and you need to buy food, and you have to buy pre-made meals or boxed meals or quick food because you don't have the time, because you're working for another man in their company all day long. You don't have the time, you don't have the energy, you don't even have the willpower to want to make food from scratch for your family. So you go to the grocery store and you lay down that $100 bill on the cash register to buy the food, and you've got a tax on top of that. So you were just taxed 30% of your income to make income. Now you're taxed another, depending on where you are, 7% in my area for the food that you just bought. So now we're up to like nearly 40%. And that's not including like the gas that it took to go get there, and the wear and tear on your vehicle, and the mental cost of having to keep your work life and your home life balanced and managed and things like that. So we're at 40% now of your income just to eat. And you almost have to ask yourself, and this is the point that I got to, why am I working? Like, not why is my husband working? That's his job. His job is to protect and to provide, and he pays the taxes. My question was, why am I working? All I'm doing is giving the government more money to steal. Like, I'm just giving them more income to take. That's all I'm doing. I wasn't actually contributing to the household in a meaningful way with my income, because me being outside of the house cost us money. And it wasn't until we actually sat down and worked this through on paper that we realized that the paltry amount that I was making after paying taxes, after paying for daycare, after paying for convenience food, after paying for a second car and a second car insurance and gas in that second car, and lunches out with team building exercises for my office, and clothing for uniforms for work, like business casual or whatever, getting my hair and nails done so that I looked like the other women in the office and so that I fit into office culture, right? After figuring all of that out, we were bleeding money. I'm not even joking. And I was making at the time above minimum wage. So I was making what I considered to be a good income. And if it were just me, and if I were just single, and if I didn't have like the other responsibilities that I had at the time, it would have been a good income. It would have been fine to just support myself. But what I was trying to do is I was trying to work during the day and pull in a paycheck, and then at night I was having to do the rest of the work. And hear me clearly when I say that my husband did a lot of the work. He did the laundry, he did the dishes. Like, he was very, very helpful. And still, it didn't matter. There wasn't enough time for either of us to do our jobs well. We both had to be outside of the house during the day, or at least we were in that mentality that we thought we needed two incomes to make a middle class lifestyle happen. And it just simply wasn't true. And it wasn't until I stepped out of that and put my faith in God and put my faith in my husband and said, no, you know what? It's actually, I am serving the family better by being at home, being productive in my home, building up my home. A wise woman builds her home. I am serving my family, my community, my state, and my country, and my Lord better by being at home and being productive in the home. And I think this is something that you just need to be brutally honest about, because it took years for me to figure out that, well, and honestly, it took my husband a couple years to figure out too, that me working wasn't making a difference. In fact, we were gaining debt faster. We were spending more. We were less productive with me working outside of the home. And this is something that I think you just need to take a very solid look at. What we came to realize is that me working outside the home not only cost us in time, resources, sanity, comfort at home, but also there was this other thing that was happening, and it was costing my husband income. And it was costing him opportunity. Because I was not able to be his helper at home because I was helping another man in his company, my husband was having to shoulder the burden of promotions in his job, of being like the best that he could be at his job on his own. I wasn't actually able to help him because I wasn't at home. And I did not see this until much later in life, when I saw it happen in another family, just like more pronounced, where I realized, oh my gosh, I had done this to my own husband, and I had to actually repent and ask forgiveness for that, because I hadn't seen it until I saw it happen in somebody else. But what had happened was my husband had gotten several job opportunities, but it would require us moving, which meant being very uncomfortable. And we had moved so much. I'm telling you, at one point we were moving every year or every 6 months. It was a lot. And I just was done with being uncomfortable. I was done with packing boxes. I was done with looking for new places. I was very selfish. Let me just remind you, I was like a baby Christian. And he had gotten a great opportunity, and I said no. I said, absolutely not. I'm not moving again. I'm not doing this again. And instead of me saying, yeah, let's do it, let's see what happens, I ended up costing him a promotion because he wasn't willing, or because he wasn't able to be flexible in his job. My selfishness cost him a promotion, which hurt us later in life. Like, it didn't hurt immediately at the time, because the promotion wouldn't have been like that big of a advancement or that big of a pay bump or anything like that. It probably would have cost us money in the short term, actually, to come up with the money to move. But in the long term, it cost him future promotions, it cost him networking opportunities, and it cost us big, because I said no to the Lord. I said, no, I'm in control. And I did not trust the Lord to have my husband's back. Like, I did not have faith to believe that my husband knew what was best for our family. And like I said, selfish. I have to repent of that. I still have to repent of that to this day. So this has been, like I said, I did not realize the cost of not being a helper at home until later in life, until everybody else in his company was advancing in their careers, and he was stuck. And he was stuck because he didn't take those earlier opportunities. And so now we kind of had to like backtrack some so that he could advance in his career. And the cost has actually been enormous, and it's been a little frightening. But again, like, I have to repent of my fear and be like, no, God, you know what you're doing. You will open the doors, and I have faith in you, and I have faith in what you're doing with my husband. So coming home to be his helper to actually further him in his career, which meant taking all the little things off his shoulders so that he could just focus on putting his career into overdrive, right? So taking the little things that I was expecting him to do when he was at home off of his shoulders meant that he had more brain space. He had more ability to sharpen his skills, to practice interviews, to to network with his fellow coworkers and things like that. Again, those are all things that we could not do when I was working outside of the home. So you need to seriously consider the cost of your paycheck. And I just never did. It's not something that we thought about. And it wasn't until later in life when I was further in my sanctification and further in like wisdom that I realized, wow, the opportunity cost that we lost with because I was selfish and needed to work was crazy. It just had mind-blowing, the amount of loss for that. So anyhow, now that I'm done with that tangent, things to think about, things to consider and pray about, let's get into the practical stuff of this. So what I want to do is I just kind of want to go through like each of these different little items that I have worked on to become a producer and not a consumer. And also I want to give you a couple tips on things that you should probably consume instead of produce, and some of like real world application for that. So I'm going to start with my all-time favorite thing ever, and these are laundry sheets. So you can see they are actually foldable and they rip in half. So this would be like one half of this sheet would be a small load and one whole sheet would be a full load, versus big box store laundry detergent, even the cheapest detergent you can find. So you can get these from, there's a bunch of companies that sell these. I get them on Amazon. That does, it's like an eco-friendly company. I don't really care about the eco-friendly thing. This was just the cheapest unscented laundry detergent sheet I could find. Unscented with no like nasties in it. We have a septic system, so I got to be real careful about what we put into our septic system. And we also have well water. So I have to have something that easily dissolves because my well water is really hard. I also needed something that was hypoallergenic, had no fragrances, and had no parabens, plastics, or sulfates. So this is where this came in. There's 100 sheets in a box, and per sheet, it is 3 cents. I priced out my cheapest big box laundry detergent at the store, which was Costco, and that was 13 cents a load. So 3 cents a load versus 13 cents a load. Now it's only 10 cents, but 10 cents over thousands and thousands of loads of laundry, huge savings, huge savings. So we're going to do a little bit of nickel and diming here, but probably don't do the nickel and diming until you've looked at your big picture budget line items. Remember, food, housing, and auto. Those are the 3 big pictures. But once you've done that and you've cut where you can there, start looking at the little picture things. And that's what this, I'm going to assume that you're already making those changes in your big picture things and you're looking for some little picture things that will help you become a producer and not a consumer. So laundry sheets versus laundry detergent, the sheets win hands down. They dissolve easy. They work in hard water. They're great for HE machines. They're great. All right, wool dryer balls versus dryer sheets. So I have right here, I have a little container of dryer balls right here, right? Those were, I just looked this up on Amazon. They were 0.00002 cents per load, because you can get a bag of 6 of wool dryer balls for $10, and they each last 1,000 loads. So that's 6,000 loads versus dryer sheets, which the cheapest dryer sheets I could find were 5 cents a sheet. So you're talking about free, statistically speaking, using dryer balls are free versus using dryer sheets, which is 5 cents a sheet. Wash rags, free. Use old t-shirts, old socks, old towels. Use what you already have on hand. Cut it into rag sizes. Store it somewhere where you store your rags. Don't go out and buy rags. That's dumb. My husband did buy shop rags at one point in time, so I do have a bunch of really dingy white shop rags that I use for like heavy duty cleaning. But for the most part, just use what you've got. Surely you have a ratty towel laying around somewhere that you can cut into 6 squares. Voila, you now have 6 cleaning rags. And versus paper towels, wash rags essentially free, again, statistically speaking, free. Paper towels, $17 a package. I couldn't figure out how to break that down into uses because, like, I know that there's people that reuse paper towels, but usually no. But I will say we do keep some paper towels on hand. So right there, I keep a stack right there of paper towels on hand. And that's because we have some animals. And if they happen to do a nasty in the house, I really don't want to have to like wash a poopy rag, right? That's kind of gross. So I do have paper towels, but I mean, this is like a once a year purchase. I'm not even exaggerating. Once a year. We don't use them frequently. We use them only for like the nasty things that we really don't want to wash. So there's that. Pre-treatment versus the myriad of stain removers. So this is one area where I'm willing to splurge a little bit. However, the reason that I'm willing to splurge a little bit is because we have very hard water. We're on a spring, and we have very hard well water. We have a septic system, and I tend not to buy clothes. Like I don't buy a whole ton of clothes, so I need my clothing to last. So what I do is I buy this pre-treatment. I'll show it to you. I get this on Amazon. It is called Rock and Green. I get the hard rock version. There's a bunch of different versions on there. It's pretty clean in terms of ingredients. It's very great for sensitive skin. I can't do like fragrances or dyes or things like that. So this is great for that. There's also no phosphates or parabens. There's no artificial fragrances, and there's no SLS or SLESs. And it's also very safe for the septic system, and it works in HE machines. So how I use this is I decant it into a little thing like this, right? And there's a scoop in there, a tablespoon scoop, I think. And I put 1 tablespoon in with my laundry in the pre-wash compartment in the wash machine. So inside there, back there, I put it in there. And then I set the washer to a pre-wash cycle. So something that a lot of people don't know about the new HE machines, and I'll say new in like quotes because HE machines have been out for a while, but they don't use as much water as the old agitator machines, right? So you're supposed to be saving on water, but what ends up happening is that your clothes don't actually get as clean as they used to because you're not using as much water, and also you don't have as much agitation. So the clothes aren't rubbing against something like they used to in an agitator machine. So clothes don't get as clean. And what ends up happening, especially if you have hard water, and especially if you use anything that contains dyes, fragrances, or waxes, which are most detergents and all scent beads and scent boosters, all laundry sheets, like they all contain waxes. That's how you get, if you touch it and it feels sticky, it's got a wax in it. What ends up happening is that will build up in your machines, and it will build up on your clothing. It will make your clothing wear faster, and it will make it stink faster. Don't know if you've ever like washed some yoga pants and then put them on and got sweaty within 10 minutes and just they stank, and it's because of the waxes. The waxes trap your body oil and dirt into the clothing and then don't break down in the wash. So what you end up doing is you end up using more scent boosting and more detergent, thinking that that's the problem. But really what the problem is the detergent and the scent boosters itself. So I use this Rocking Green because it acts kind of as a laundry stripper. A gentle one, but one nonetheless. One that you can use more than you could like if you were diaper stripping. If you've ever used reusable diapers. If you've ever used cloth diapers. If you've ever used cloth diapers, you have to strip them from time to time because the nitrates in urine and fecal matter will build up on them, and they will become stinky and dingy. And so this Rockin' Green actually helps like minutely strip the laundry. It counteracts my hard water essentially, which then helps clean the clothing better, which means my clothing lasts longer, my machine lasts longer, and I can stretch my detergent further. I don't have to use more detergent. In fact, more detergent hurts your machine. So if you get like liquid detergent, it's almost all water. So you like pour a bunch in thinking that you're getting more and you're not. You're just hurting your clothes in your machine. So things to think about. But I also use the Rocking Green in place of a stain remover. In place of buying a stain remover, I just rub a little bit of a wet paste made out of the Rocking Green on the stain, and it whitens it pretty much immediately. So that works great. Citric acid versus a scent booster. I recently tried, it was from, I think, Downy, the Rinse and Refresh, and I was amazed at how great our clothing smelled afterward, despite not using a scented one like we use the unscented one. The main ingredient in that is citric acid, and I should have just knew that. So essentially, what you can do is you can use citric acid or vinegar, white vinegar, as a scent booster or laundry softener. Um, be aware that that is breaking down your fibers in your clothing faster than if you didn't use anything at all. But it can really help your laundry smell fresh. It won't have a scent necessarily because it's not scented, but it will smell fresh when it comes out of the wash. It won't smell like vinegar or citric acid unless you're using a ton of vinegar, which you shouldn't be. So those are things to replace. Reusable dusters and mop heads. That's my next versus the disposable ones. So I used to be a Swiffer girl, and now I have these reusable mop pads. When I'm done mopping, they just get thrown in the wash machine. And I also have a reusable Swiffer thingy. I don't even have a Swiffer anymore, but I have a mop that I can actually wrap this around. And when I'm done with that, that can just get thrown in the wash too. So switching from disposable to reusable automatically starts making your house a productive household, because you're not consuming one-time use things. And this is great for the environment too, although that's not why I'm doing it. It being good for the environment is just a like plus. It's a plus of what I'm already doing. Vinegar versus cleaning sprays. The vinegar, you just water it down with some water, and if you need it like to be like a degreaser, then you add a drop of soap. Baking soda versus cleaning pastes. If you look at cleaning pastes, most of the main ingredients are going to be things like baking soda. You have baking soda in your house, just use that instead. And then dryer racks or dryer lines versus the electric dryer. So this is dependent on your situation, because you may live in a space where you don't have room for a dryer rack. And if you don't, then you could create something like this. So I don't have space in my laundry room for a large dryer rack, but my husband created this dryer rack that folds up and flips down. And you can see I have my intimate on there drying right now, since I don't put that in the dryer. That's another pro tip. Don't dry your things with elastics in them in the dryer. If at all possible, air dry them because they will last longer. Okay, so that's kind of like the this versus that. Making your own laundry soap is not advisable, okay? Take it from me. Learn from my mistakes. There are lots of horror stories out there on the internet, and let me tell you, they are true. So there are two different things to consider when you're looking for a detergent or a soap. So there are two different ways to clean your clothing. There is soap and there is detergent. Detergent contains some form of chemical that actually breaks into the dirt, the oil, the skin residue, whatever, and clears it away. Soap does the same thing, but soap needs chemical, mechanical, thermal energy to break down. So what ends up happening is, if you're making your own laundry soap, and this is what happened to us, it kind of broke our washer. We were making our own laundry soap, and we ended up needing to replace our wash machine because the soap, after a year, well, a little longer than a year, maybe closer to 2 years, after 2 years of using homemade laundry soap, our wash machine needed to be basically replaced because there was so much soap buildup on the inside of the machine that nothing was getting cleaned. And we could, in order to clean that buildup, you actually have to take the drum out of the wash machine. You have to take the whole wash machine apart. You have to take the drum out and you have to clean the whole interior. It was disgusting. It was disgusting. Thank God my husband is very handy and he was able to do it, and we switched back to detergent with a quickness. What also ended up happening was the soap that I was making, which was just, if you YouTube or Google homemade laundry soap, I was using a recipe exactly like that, like Fells Napa, grated soap bars, borax, plus like scent booster, whatever. And at first it seemed like it was doing fine, but within about 6 months, all the laundry started stinking horribly, especially the towels. The towels and the tech gear, like the workout gear, were the first two things that started getting super horribly smelly. And I thought, oh my gosh, what's going on, right? So I was adding more homemade soap to the wash machine, thinking that like it just wasn't cleaning well enough because it was homemade soap. But what was happening was, because I was using a agitator-less front load washing machine and I was using it cold, like I was just washing my clothes in cold water, there was no mechanical energy to break down the soap. There wasn't any thermal energy to break down the soap because there's no agitator, there was no heat, and the soap itself, I wasn't adding any chemical to it that could actually break it down. So hard water, and then add hard water on top of all of that. And what I was doing was creating basically a soap scum nightmare. Soap scum on the interior of the wash machine, on the drum of the wash machine, and soap scum on all of our clothing. It got to the point where about every 6 to 8 weeks, I had to fully strip, just like I had to do with cloth diapers, fully strip all of our laundry, towels, t-shirts, everything, because it was the stripping that was taking all that soap scum buildup on the clothing and getting rid of it. And then the soap scum was getting added back onto the clothing in the wash machine. And it was my homemade laundry detergent that was doing it, because it wasn't detergent, it was homemade laundry soap. So I don't know if there's any recipes out there that actually are detergent. There might be, but for 3 cents a load, this was worth it. This was cheaper than the stuff that I was making with the Fells Napa and the borax anyway, and it works 900 times better. So, and I don't have to make it. So, thinking about being a productive household, is it worth my time to grate bars of soap, to destroy a very expensive washing machine, and then to have to sit there and soak my clothing every 8 weeks? Absolutely not. That is unproductive. That actually put me into consumption, because I was having to consume more time, more energy, more brain space, more physical labor into just keeping clothing clean. And it wasn't even getting clean. It would stink. And like, it was so embarrassing. Let me tell you, it was just so embarrassing to like put on a pair of yoga pants, and within 10 minutes, they would stink like wet dog. Or the towels, like they would smell fine coming out of the dryer, but as soon as you wrapped yourself in it after you got out of the bathtub, it smelled like wet dog, and it was nasty. And it was the homemade soap that was doing it, the homemade laundry soap. So I don't advise that you make your own laundry detergent, because I don't think you can make detergent, because there has to be some sort of chemical in there that actually breaks the scum down. But maybe there's a recipe out there that actually does that. Also, if you have the mechanical and thermal energy to break homemade soap down, like if you're using a top load wash machine with one of those big agitators and you're using it on hot wash and you don't have hard water, homemade soap will probably be fine for a while, because that might actually break it down. All that different mechanical thermal energy might break the soap down. Whereas with me, I was using cold wash, no agitation, in an HE machine with little water and with hard water. And all I was doing was just creating a soap scum crap storm. It was horrible. All right. The other things that you can do to become a productive Christian household in your laundry room is, and this is one of my favorite things to do, is pray for your family members when you're doing their laundry. So my son usually does his own laundry, and my sister usually does her own laundry too. But from time to time, I have to come in here and switch something over or fold something so that I can use a dryer or whatever. And when I do that, when I pull their load out of the dryer or out of the wash machine and switch it, I just say a little prayer for them, and that's always fun. It always makes me feel like pretty grateful that I get to do that. I get to have the privilege of praying for whoever I'm currently serving in that moment. So that's a good little tidbit tip there. Also, utilize the delay wash function on your wash machine. I was like 37 when I figured out that you could do delay washes on your wash machine, which means you can load your washer before you go to bed at night, set a delayed wash for 8 hours later, and then when you wake up in the morning, it will be just finishing up and ready to transfer over to the dryer. So instead of having to wait for the wash machine to finish, you can just start the day with a clean load of laundry. Like, it feels like you've already accomplished something. Also, it allows you that extra bit of time because the machine is working while you're sleeping and you don't even have to think about it. So that's a cool little feature. So if check your wash machine, check the user's manual, see if you have a delayed wash feature. Mine wasn't like painfully obvious right on the front or whatever. So my husband showed me how to use it, and I've been using it ever since. It's like a game changer. Clean your dryer lint trap often, like quarterly. So my husband goes frequently into people's homes to fix their appliances because he's a handyman. And the amount of dryer fires he's had to respond to, or like lint fires, is heartbreaking. Heartbreaking. People who've started their houses on fire because they never cleaned their lint trap, and they didn't realize that you had to actually take like a stick and go down inside the lint area and pull all the excess lint out. Or this is very common up north. I don't know that this is as common down here in the south, but up north, when we would like move from a rental home to a rental home, what we would have to do is we would have to have somebody come and inspect to see if the lint trap that vented outside was blocked. And plenty of fires start like that too. So not only are you running the risk, if you don't do this very frequently, of starting a fire in your home, but you're also decreasing the lifespan of a very expensive appliance, and you're making it less efficient. So if it's all blocked up with lint, or if the piping is all blocked up with lint, the dryer isn't drying as fast, which means you're using more energy. It also means your clothes are tumbling for longer, and it also means that your machine is working for longer. So you have just like several things going on here that are costing you a ton of time and a ton of money. And it's as simple as making sure that the lint trap is clean and that your venting is cleaned as well. So add that to your quarterly to-do list. Make sure that that's something that you're doing frequently. On top of whenever you go to clean your dryer, also give the inside of your washer a wipe down, especially the seal around the door if you have a front loading washer. If you have a top loading washer, I'm not sure. I haven't seen like a new top loading washer. The last time we had a top loading washer, it had a big agitator in it. But make sure that you're cleaning it as advised in the user manual. And if you don't have the user manual, just Google it, because the user manuals for all your stuff is online now. So you can just look it up online. Declutter your clothes. I see this all the time. And when I was a nanny and a home organizer, people had so many clothes, and they would just like put one outfit on, and before the clothes were dirty, that clothes would go in the laundry. And again, that's time, water, money, detergent. That's a bunch of things that you're spending on clothes that aren't even dirty. So unless your clothes are dirty, don't wash them. Like, if I just run to Publix, see, I'm wearing a t-shirt and pants, but if I just want to run to Publix and I put on a nicer shirt and a nicer pair of pants, and then I come home and I didn't I don't know, white gross seafood on my pants or something, my pants are clean. I wore them for 30 minutes running to Publix and coming back. Those pants get hung back up and they're ready to wear again on another day. I'm not going to waste the water, the time, and the resources on washing them when they're not dirty. If you want to really have an eye-opening experience, read about washing routines, laundry washing routines from like the 16, 17, and 1800s. It will blow your mind how little clothing got washed. Um, so, like, the fact that we have these machines that can run day and night for us is really, really incredible. Thanks be to God we can do that. But if you can declutter your clothing and just have less clothing, you'll have less to wash. You might have to wash what you have a little bit more frequently, but that's actually easier than having a lot of clothing to manage, especially the more children you have and the more clothing you have to manage, the more time, money, resources, brain space that's all going to take up. So declutter your clothing if it's possible. I already covered don't wash your clothes if they aren't actually dirty. That's the same thing with your sheets. Listen, I was a die-hard wash my bed sheets and comforter every single week. It just doesn't need to be done. I take a shower before I go to bed every night. I am not getting dirty in the bed. Like, I am climbing into bed clean and I'm going to sleep, and then I'm waking up and I'm making the bed. Now, if you have animals that sleep in your bed, this might be a thing that you'll have to like assess. But if you can cut out like one extra load of laundry a week, how much time does that free up for you? Especially if it's like washing stuff that's not actually dirty. And then excess detergent, wax scent beads, anything with wax or sulfates in it actually shorten the life of your machine and your clothing. And so those are things to look into. My sister absolutely loves those Gain scent beads because she loves the scent of Gain. And you can get, she does use them. That's fine. That's how she wants to wash her clothing. I won't use them. But you can get a very similar effect in your clothing by buying the dryer sheets, the Gain dryer sheets. If you have a laundry detergent smell that you absolutely can't live without, you can get a very similar effect by buying the laundry detergent sheets and tucking them into your drawers with your clothing. So then your clothing actually gets scented while it's sitting in the drawer instead of shortening the life of your machine and your clothing by adding a bunch of wax to it. So, things to think about. Okay, so I hope that this video blesses you. I hope that this video helps start getting your wheels turning about how can I become a producer in my laundry room versus a consumer in my laundry room. And remember, you don't have to do this overnight. You can start small. Start with something small that you can do right now. Like, find that nasty towel tucked away in your linen closet and cut it up into rags. Voila, you are now on your way to becoming a productive household instead of a consumptive household. So I pray that this video blesses you. I pray that your hands are blessed with your work and that you work unto the glory and the honor of the Lord. All right. Well, thank you again so much for watching. I appreciate you. I'm praying for you and I love you. Have a blessed week. Bye.